India has extended its helping hand to the quake-hit countries of Syria and Turkey. Despite its political differences with Ankara, New Delhi has sent the 7th flight with relief materials under Operation Dost, or Friend. India's External Affairs Ministry has confirmed that the flight, with over 23 tons of relief material, including gensets, solar lamps, emergency and critical care medicines, among others, was received at the Damascus airport by the Deputy Minister of Local Administration and Environment. While the 7th flight carrying relief material to Turkey landed at the Adana airport, the craft delivered medical equipment like patient and ECG monitors, syringe pumps and disaster relief material, along with supplies for the Indian relief teams on the ground. India has sent teams of rescuers and doctors along with relief material as part of Operation Dost. The Indian Army has set up a field hospital in the Hatay province in Turkey. The 60 para-field hospital has been established in a school building. The facility has a staff of 96 people, including orthopedic surgeons, who are treating the victims of the deadly disaster. The magnitude 7.8 earthquake ripped through Turkey and Syria early on the 6th of February. The deadly quake toppled entire apartment blocks, wrecked hospitals and left over 33,000 people dead. The earthquake was the biggest recorded worldwide by the US Geological Survey since the tremor in the remote South Atlantic in August 2021. Turkey and Syria are not the only countries to which India has provided aid in times of need. In the recent past, India has helped its economic crisis-hit neighbour Sri Lanka. New Delhi extended aid worth $3.9 billion to help Colombo deal with its economic crisis. In 2015, India extended help to Nepal when it faced a devastating earthquake of 7.3 magnitude. India provided aid of over $11 million for housing in the education sector. India had also sent disaster management teams to the quake-hit region. For more on this, we are now joined by Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, former Indian diplomat. He served as India's ambassador to many countries and is currently the president of the Institute of Global Studies in New Delhi. Ambassador Sajanhar, great to have you on WION. Let me ask you this. The people of Turkey and Syria have both expressed their gratitude towards India for sending aid in this very difficult hour. What do you make of the fact that New Delhi immediately extended help to Turkey under Operation Dost, despite New Delhi's political differences with Ankara, and the fact that India was among a handful of countries that was willing to offer immediate assistance to Syria, a country riddled with domestic political complications, this when most Western nations haven't really stepped up to help the people of Syria, primarily perhaps because of their opposition to Bashar al-Assad?
Yeah, maybe to Syria, to Bashar al-Assad, but of course, as far as Mr. Erdogan is concerned and to Turkey is concerned, it's a member of NATO. So, you know, I think it really is inexplicable as to how many of the countries from Europe have not come in, very quickly. But coming to India, your first question was on India. I think this is really in keeping with the ethos of, our foreign policy. You would recall, Neha, that when Prime Minister Modi had gone to the UN General Assembly in 2014, he had evoked the ethos of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is a family. And this has been a constant refrain, and it is not only in terms of mentioning, but India has also been walking the talk. This year, India has assumed the presidency of the G20. And there also our motto, our theme is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam expanded to one earth, one family, one future. So we have reached out today. We have much greater capabilities, capacities, human resources. And so while in our neighborhood, you mentioned about Sri Lanka, you mentioned about Nepal, we've also been helping out Afghanistan again, where the government is not particularly friendly towards, has not been particularly friendly towards India. We don't have diplomatic relations with Afghanistan. None of the countries in the world has diplomatic relations, but we have still provided to help the people of the country. So here also, basically, we are using our very strong capacity to help the people of Turkey. We are not keeping the political differences with the government of President Erdogan in mind, and reached out basically to them. We have been doing it all the time. I think this is the first time that we are going so far out of our neighborhood, out of our region. But I think this also helps to enhance our own capacity, our own capabilities in this area, which has become so very important. Yeah.
All right. You're quite right in pointing out those examples from the past. It's not just now. This is something India has been doing for a while now. India has played a constructive role as a responsible member of the international community and an emerging regional and world player, helping Nepal, as you mentioned there, during that devastating earthquake, helping Sri Lanka during its worst economic crisis. We've been deeply invested in Afghanistan for a very long time, sending humanitarian aid even to war-torn Ukraine. What does this say about India's role on the global stage, especially in a year where, as you mentioned, India is getting ready to host the G20 summit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think India is a much stronger player, a much stronger actor on the global scene. And that is why you would have seen, even, if we don't take the disaster areas, the natural disasters, but, even the man-made, the human-made disaster of the COVID-19 pandemic, which spread around. I think India became one of the very few countries. Today, we have, supplied about 300 million vaccine doses to more than 100 countries. I don't think this is a track record that very many even developed countries can really contend with. So I think India's presence, whether it is politically, whether it is economically, it is strategically, that our clout, our profile has grown much stronger. The world is really looking at India with much greater hope and much greater expectations. You would recall, even as far as the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, she said that all around in the world, and she was talking about the economies of, how the COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine conflict has impacted upon the economies of different countries, the inflation, right, their debt vulnerability. And she said India is the only bright spot in the world where otherwise there is gloom and despair. I think we also need to keep in mind that in 2014, when the present government came to power, India was the 10th largest economy in the world. Today, it is the 5th largest economy in the world. And, there are a large number of estimates which seem to suggest that by the end of this decade or beginning of next decade, right, India is going to be the 3rd largest economy after having displaced both Germany as well as Japan. Yes. So I think it has greater capacity and there are greater expectations from India today.
Absolutely. Greater expectations from India, perhaps than ever before. And you're quite right, talking about India's role on the global stage. Perhaps India's vaccine diplomacy is a very important case in point because it did win plaudits worldwide. On that note, Ambassador Sajjan Har, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with WION. Always a pleasure talking to you.